Welcome, Mansur. How are you? We are live on the podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and sorry for coming late. I'm trying
No,
to
that's fine.
juggle
We
with a
just
lot of
started.
That's
things.
fine. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I know you have 4 or 5 interviews today, and that thank you for popping by on such short notice. Let's get right into it. You're a Druze. You live in Israel, and how are you? And how is your family? And what's going on?
So, the Druze people worldwide are experiencing right now an October 7 of their own. Only the scales seem to be getting out of control because when October 7 happened to the Jews, the IDF in Israel was there to stop a genocide attempt by the Gazans, the Palestinians. In Syria, no one is there to stop it, and the government is the one that is doing it. And the only one that is actually interfering to stop it is Israel, and they're getting all the heat for trying to save minorities who are being slaughtered, Christians and Druze. For those of you who don't know, there's about 1 million Druze all around the world. We're probably one of the smallest religions on this planet.
Mhm.
And we're facing a serious threat right now from the radical jihadist Sunni Salafi Muslim world, ISIS, Al Qaeda, and the government of Syria, by the way, to eradicate all the Druze. They're sending foreign fighters and jihadists from all over the region. They're coming from Lebanon, from Iraq, from Libya, some from Somalia, from Afghanistan. They made a fatwa, which is a religious verdict, like an executive order that you're allowed to do it now, saying that we are restoring the jihad from 500 years ago. It's okay to go and spill the blood of the Druze. Not okay. It's expected. You need to go and do that, to go and kill the Druze, and also you can take their women and their daughters as sex slaves. When that happened, more and more Bedouin flocks started flocking into Syria to go and kill the Druze in the mountains, and the only one that stood to save them is Israel. If it wasn't for Israel, and you're hearing that now from Druze in Sweida, if it wasn't for Israel, we would have witnessed a real genocide, October 7th scale. We already witnessed it. People walking with beheaded heads, taking pictures, selfies. I just saw a video yesterday, and I posted on my social media of a car driving with 2 men, 2 mothers, and a grandfather. So 2 husband, 2 mother, and grandfather, and 3 children. One of them is a toddler. The car is being shot. That's, by the way, in the first day of the war almost. That's in the 16th of July. The family is getting shot. Wait, we're in July or in August now?
We're in July.
Yeah, still in July. Time is going crazy.
Yeah, I know.
So the family gets shot by the terrorists. Then they go in and they kidnap the children. This is all recorded by a security camera over a shop. And minutes after, the tanks are driving by to invade the mountain of the Druze. So El Jawlani have sent an army of his government that is compiled by active ISIS terrorists, and also with all the Bedouin tribes around, Muslim tribes, to go and ethnically cleanse, kill, kidnap, burn, butcher, the same thing that we saw on October 7. And for some reason, mainstream media in the world is ignoring it, is not talking about it.
It's we were I and other we were at a demonstration on Sunday in Oslo, with primarily with the Druze community in Norway, which I didn't really know exists, but it does, along with Christians and Alawites who were in a similar situation. And I didn't see a single reporter. And as far as and apparently somebody was there, and it's gotten a little bit of coverage, in part because some of us who were there made an effort to make the media aware of it. But the way it's being presented in Norway is as sectarian violence. In other words, that there's long-standing conflict, particularly between the Druze and the Bedouin. But what I hear from not just the Druze, but also the Alawites and Christian minorities in Syria is that's not the case at all. The Bedouins are just being used by the regime to persecute these minorities and drive them out of Syria, so that you get this hegemony by sort of the Sunni radical jihadist movement. Can you comment on that impression that's being created?
Yes, definitely. You know what? I'm also seeing very disturbing things here in Germany and all around Europe. We're seeing right now pro-jihadist, pro-Palestine, pro-Syrian regime, the Salafi Sunni, walking with posters of al-Shara in the streets and walking with scissors. We're seeing many of them making selfies and videos of saying the scissors have become the new symbol of ethnically cleansing the Druze. We're going to come and cut your mustaches before we kill you. We're going to come and humiliate you before we kill you. Imagine this is how crazy it is in Germany, in Europe. This is happening. Imagine right now you'll see skinhead Nazis walking with scissors or with knives and saying, we're going to come and we're going to shave the these things that the Jews have, the
Peyot, yeah.
Peyot, yeah. We're gonna shave the Peyot, we're gonna shave their mustache, we're gonna slaughter them. So like no one would believe that this could happen. Although I'm pretty sure in the next few months we're gonna start seeing complete rise of Nazism linked with Islamism. They somehow they linked very much together. They have the same causes. I'm not talking all Muslims, but I'm talking a lot of the radical Muslims, which is a big chunk. And many of the garbage of them came to Europe, by the way. They didn't stay in their the peaceful Muslim countries. They came from torn-worn countries into Europe to take down your country. So we're gonna start seeing, for some reason, the same cause. They want to exterminate the Jews. They want to exterminate the Druze. They want to kill gay people. They want to kill basically Christians. They want to kill anyone that is not them. And they're feeling very comfortable to do these things. Literally, as we're witnessing a genocide happening, a real one, not a made up one, that Israel stopped. Only Israel stopped. If Israel didn't stop it, they would have killed all 400,000-500,000 Druze in that mountain, including Christians. Nothing was there to stop them. The same thing if Hamas would have not been stopped, they would have killed all Jews that they could. Not only Jews, Muslims, they would have killed everything alive that they can in Israel. That is the whole thing, and from the river to the sea. That's why we keep telling people it's a call for a genocide, but people ignore it because it sounds cool and it makes them feel like they're doing something good. To answer your questions about what's happening in Syria, and that's really important for the people to understand. Syria, after the collapse of the Assad regime, was kidnapped by a faction of jihadists, ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Undoubtedly, their leader was literally wanted in Europe. He had a $10 million reward on his head. He just started dressing a suit and looking like a hipster, and now people think that he's a cool guy. Now, Syria have went to become an extremist Sunni Salafi state. For those of you who don't know, what does that mean, extremist Salafis? Salafis are people in Islam that choose to take it to the letter, all the way to how Muhammad, the Prophet, did it in his warlords, and also all the interpretations around. They come and say, we're going to take it to the extreme, everything possible. Example is Afghanistan, where you see women were allowed to first, go outside, kind of show their hair. Then suddenly you can't show your hair. Then suddenly you can't show your eyes. Then suddenly you can't even speak because your voice might get a good Muslim man horny and he's going to come and commit an adultery. And then they say you can't even go outside because her smell might provoke a Muslim man. And then they say daughters should not even go to school because what is it? Why should you teach a woman anything except from being an incubator for babies and a sex slave for her husband and a servant to make him food? Like, what other purpose does a woman have? That is a Salafi. They take everything to the extreme. Just an example of women. In Syria, they're going to start with that. Trust me on that. They're going to start with the women as well very soon. They already started, but it's going to go extreme. But right now, they have other issues. They want to take all the Salafi beliefs that they have towards the minorities, meaning that minorities should be disarmed, because in Islam, no one is allowed to hold a weapon unless he's a Muslim. You're not allowed to ride a horse if you're not Muslim. If you're Jews or Christian, you're not allowed to hold a sword. You're not allowed to build a new church or a mosque or bigger buildings and etc. And you need to pay a very, very heavy taxation. You're basically kind of a slave class C citizen. So the only ones in Syria that haven't succumbed to Sharia law are the Kurds. Well, kind of they have their own because, many of them are Muslims there, but they're very secular. And the Druze. All the rest are living under the fear of Sharia law. The Christians, the Alawites, they can't say anything. They can't tweet. That's why we're not hearing a lot from them. The Druze said, we'll not let you come and enslave our women and take them as sex slaves and enforce Sharia law on us. And that's why the government want to disarm them, because that's what ISIS would want to do. And they said no, and then they came to kill them. And then Israel stepped to protect them. But all the world is talking about is how Israel is attacking Syria right now, rather than why is Israel the only one? Why is Europe not coming to save Christians, Alawite, Yazidi girls, Druze? Why is the West is just ignoring an onslaught and even sending them money, and Israel is the only one that is standing, but they all blame Israel.
Would you say that the main reason that the Druze are being attacked so viciously is that they just refuse to succumb to this Salafist
Sharia law.
Sharia law? That is the main thing, or is it also about them hating the Druze people themselves?
Well, it's a much grander thing. It's about the fact that they're not Muslim. Let's call it what it is. We've seen some of the videos, the horrific videos of the execution. You see a man sitting, an older man sitting, on the stairs. And then some ISIS jihadists and government people with patches of Al-Qaeda are pointing guns at him and asking him, who are you? And he says, I'm Syrian, because he's a Syrian citizen. Mind you, it's Syria killing its own citizens. Who are you? I'm Syrian, just like you. No. Are you Druze or Muslim? And he says, I'm Syrian. And he said, are you Druze? And then he says, yes, I'm bombed. They all shoot him execution style. So it's the definition of ethnical cleansing. It's the definition of killing anyone that is not like you. And by the way, they were killing also Muslims that are not like them. So this is a very, very extreme religious war. People don't know it, but the jihadists, just to help you understand what kind of a religious war it is. We always hear them shout Allahu Akbar when they're going and shooting. And one of the reasons, they don't know how to fight very well. Any professional army, I was an officer in the Israeli army, I was in special forces. We dealt with these amateurs a lot. They're very easy to take down. They go and they shoot over their head all the time, and they shout Allahu Akbar, and they shoot because they believe that God is gonna aim their random bullets to go and hit different targets, because they're doing the service of God by coming and killing. They also have something they call istashhid. Istashhid is from the word shaheed. They never really send their fighters to come back alive. I've never, in my career in the special forces, I don't think I've seen once even Muslim jihadists trying to rescue their brother. Not even once. I've only seen them just running to die and to kill as many as they can before they die. Now, there is video surfacing showing that even what I'm saying is when you see one of them get shot and he falls down, his friends will say istashhid, rather than trying to save him, meaning just submit to God and die as a shaheed. Now, some of them are just wounded in the leg, and he's saying, like, guys, I just got shot in the leg. What do you mean istashhid? Pull me out before I get killed? No, istashhid. And they'll come and take the ammunition and keep running. So it's a death cult that is focused only on killing, including their own people, in order to promote the goals of radical Islam. And a big warning to Europe, guys, many of these crazy lunatics have entered Europe. I go sometimes to buy doner or to buy, some food in Syrian shops, and the things that I hear are just crazy. I'm hearing them talking about how glad they are that the Jews are being massacred, that the Druze are being massacred. They're speaking about the Christian women of that nation, what they want to do with them. I'm hearing that in Arabic, and then I go outside and I try to warn it. Or, in a conversation, I tell my friends, hey, listen, man, I'm telling you, you need to be really careful with your daughters here. And then they start, why? I said, because I've heard what these guys are saying. And they're sitting in the neighborhood, and then they start calling me an Islamophobe. I'm an Arab, they're not. I'm from the Middle East, they're not. I was born and raised in the Middle East. I was in the special forces behind enemy lines, in the offense and in the defense. I've seen it inside out. I know the language, I know the culture, and I come to a European and I try to warn him that someone want to come and harm his daughters, and they start calling me racist and an Islamophobe. Do you know how frustrating that is? It's like, what can you do?
Well, on that note, one of the things that I struggle with is actually, and I realize that there's no press, there's no independent observers allowed within Sweida or any of those areas, and that the Syrian government also shut off electricity, water, internet connections, everything to the area. But how and where do you stay informed, especially for people who can't read or speak or understand Arabic? what are some good sources for people to actually stay informed about this issue? Because so little information is coming out, and then people don't really pay attention.
That's a very good question. I mean, I am informed because I have relatives there. The Druze community is 1 million, everyone right now. And the Druze community in Syria is the biggest one. They have about 700,000. That's more than all the rest together combined. Israel have about 150, Lebanon almost 300. So it's just around a million, a little bit plus. So we all have relatives there. We're all hearing from them. I'm getting, because of what I'm doing right now, I'm getting a lot of videos and audio recording and images from the people on the ground trying to defend their families, trying to find from men and women. I'm getting reports from ex-Muslims that are hiding in Syria and can't feel free to share their thoughts, Christians, Alawites. So I'm compiling all of that to try to give, because I'm seeing that Western media is not covering it all. And whenever they do cover it, they do it in the worst way. Sources to go, there's a friend of mine called Khalifa from the he's Khalifa, that's his name. He's a shepherd Druze in Israel. He have his own podcast as well, and he have his telegram group that does a lot of translating of these videos that are happening, anything he can. There's also a lot of Druze, well, not a lot, we're probably one of the smallest. Our ratio against Islam, I've checked it on ChatGPT the other day, is 2 billion versus 1 million. So that's like 2,000 to 1. So if you are European, I mean, you guys are in Norway, is that correct?
Yes.
So a Norwegian person who will try to go and look for some kind of a reliable source to hear in the media, undoubtedly, he's going to accidentally stumble into anti-Israel, anti-Druze propaganda. And if he will try really hard, after he will filter through like 100 of them, he might find one that's actually speaking the truth. That is how hard it is to see what's really happening with the crimes in the Muslim world, including in Syria, for someone who is sitting in Norway or in Holland or in Germany, because they're not involved. It's far away from them. They want to see, but then they go and they will filter through maybe 100 news channels that will say Israel bad, the Druze are bad, the Druze are bad, and show images. And only if they have the guts to go through it, they might come to find my podcast, for example, or the podcast of some of my friends. There's Rania, a girl from Druze girl that is in the US right now. So you need to find Druze influencers, Druze media spokesmen. And it's quite easy to find because there's not a lot of us. If you want to get a real picture of what's happening to the Druze, it's one of the most peaceful, tolerant religions in the Middle East. Yeah. Anyone who ever been to a Druze village will come and say that. They're very hospitable. They accept you as you are. So it's quite easy when you go and look for peaceful people that are being slaughtered, you're probably going to hear the truth of what's happening to them. They're not trying to make the other guy look bad. They're not trying to lie to you. They're literally trying to tell you they're killing us. I mean, I just saw a video, an insane video that was shared by a Druze sheikh from Syria who spoke in an Israeli channel. And he came and he basically suggested that Bibi Netanyahu get the Nobel Prize for Peace for saving the Druze. He came and he said, if it wasn't for Israel, we would have been slaughtered. And then in the end, when he gets passionate, he says, Israel, please take us, make us part of your country. So how is it that minorities are being slaughtered in the Middle East? Arab minorities, mind you, are all begging the Jewish state to come and take them, occupy us, take us, put us under your country, under your government, under your flag, save us. They're all seeing in the Middle East, they're all seeing it. The only one that is actually doing anything to save these minorities from these jihadists is Israel. So you need to try to look for people from Sweida. And by the way, the reason I said that is because during his interview, he even said, with all due respect to the Sunnis, even though the Sunnis are killing them, he comes and says, with all due respect to the Sunnis, but they're sending all of their tribes and jihadists to come and kill us. So the Druze is a very respectful religion. And I would strongly recommend for anyone who want to know, don't go to Al Jazeera, stay away from CNN and all kind of, woke, completely lost and compromised by Arab money media channels. Try to go to really the people on the ground and see what's happening.
The Druze people in Sweida and in Syria, are they able to somehow protect themselves? Are they able to flee, to get away? Do they have weapons? Are they able at any in any way to protect themselves from these crazy terrorists?
The only ones in the Middle East that are able to protect themselves are the Jews and Israel. All the rest, their strategy is basically we try to hide, keep our heads low, and if they come to kill us, we'll fight until the last drop of blood or surrender, and then usually they get executed. The Druze in Syria managed to take a lot of weapons when the Assad regime fell down in order to protect themselves exactly from these things. And in general, for several hundred years already, they've been fighting to survive under Islamic occupation. So they have weapons, not a lot. To your questions, in Sweida, they're sieged. They have nowhere to go. Jordan closed the border for them. All around, they're surrounded by ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the Syrian terrorist government. And they don't have water. They don't have food. Only now, with the last, fourth ceasefire, because they keep breaking it, they allowed a little bit of trucks to go in, and now they're all busy. And they got cut off the internet as well, so they couldn't really communicate or record or see. So, like, the definition of what you do when you want to ethnically cleanse people is you send your armies, you cut on the internet on them, you don't send them water and supplies and food, and you start sending tanks to go and kill them. Now, some people might come and say, yeah, but that's what Israel is doing to Palestinians. No, Israel is sending food to the Palestinians. Israel can, you've seen what Israel did to Iran and to Hezbollah. Israel can wipe out Gaza in a day, guys. They're literally trying to fight there while giving food to the enemy. Israel is basically the only country that I know, that is providing food to its enemy while trying to minimize casualties on the enemy to rescue its hostages who are kidnapped. And while the enemy is the one starving its people by stealing the money, and they get called out for that, while we're seeing that happening in Syria in real life right now, everything that all these demonstrators were crying about, we're seeing, and it was fake, we're seeing happening in Syria, and the streets are empty. You don't see people demonstrating, barely handful of people that will come and stand for what is right.
In what way is Israel able to help the Druze? What are they doing, and what do you wish, if they could help even more? What could they do in your ideal scenario?
Israel is helping greatly right now with the Air Force, with intelligence, and with sending supplies and medical aid into Sweida. Israel have the capability to destroy all these jihadists in Syria. Quite easy. Syria is literally on the bottom of the food chain of like military strength right now. They're untrained, or unorganized. They're just a bunch of ISIS groups that came together, start wearing uniform, but they're not really loyal to one another. They're drug dealers. Many of them are literally drug dealer tribes. So Israel have the way to, with the Air Force, to secure. But this is just saving. This is not really helping for the long run. To help for the long run, if it's Israel or if it's the international community, if you ever want to see minorities living in peace in Syria without the fear of being kidnapped, killed, and becoming sex slaves and sold for slavery all around the world, is by demilitarizing the zone between Israel and Damascus, the southern part of Syria, making an area there that is safe for Christians and Druze to live, maybe connecting it with the Kurds as well, some kind of corridor so they can have, because these three, you see, the Kurds, the Druze, Alawites, the Christians right now in Israel, if you let them live together, everything will be fine. They will have tourism, you'll have science flourishing there, you'll have, agriculture, economy. It's the problem with the jihadist Islam there. They want to completely destroy that country. So you need to push them to play their own jihadist games by themselves, to keep them away from the Christians and the Druze, and anyone, the Alawites, the Yazidis. But the only one that can actually help do that, in my eyes, is the international community. You can't just expect Israel to do that. Israel is being condemned for literally defending itself, let alone for defending other minorities. So, Israel is getting so much heat for doing the right thing over and over. So we need the Western community to come and help. So if we let these minorities keep living under the Syrian Muslim regime, they will never be safe.
Right.
And any day this can happen again. Happened to the Alawites before, by the way, happened to the Christians, happened to the Druze. It's going to be a circle. They're going to keep doing that.
Yeah, I've been while we've been talking, I've been sharing links both to your X account and to Rania Dean's X account. And then there's Khalifa, which is one person you also mentioned, right?
Yes.
I haven't been able to find a particular website for him yet, but I'll continue doing that.
You have a YouTube website. You have also an X, YouTube, Instagram. Anyone who will follow me, I tend to post a lot of things from him. So also you can find him, direct me, or just go to my friend list and you'll see Khalifa. He's doing a great job of educating.
So your best entry point is X, or is it?
Mine is YouTube, and also Instagram. And just because I'm a one guy doing it all by myself, so I start usually with YouTube, then I go to Instagram, and then if I have time, I'll jump to X and Facebook,
Right.
and then LinkedIn as well. And then if I'm really bored once a month and I want to feel like, what a stinky world we're living in, I'll jump into how do you call it, TikTok. And therefore, I put one video every 3 months there, and I get so much sleazy anti-Semitic hate, and then I just jump out and so that's the place to find me in.
Do you have much family still in Syria, and are you able to have contact with them? Do you have some form of communication to be able to know how they're doing?
Yes, so I have a family. My grandfather had two brothers who stayed in Syria in the mountains of Druze in Sweida, and we got separated because of the wars, the borders. And after the collapse of the Assad regime, I started hearing more and more about several of them, and we're being in touch with one another. One of them died, one of them got shot and injured. Other one had to flee the village before his village. I think there was more than 9-10 villages that were completely burned down and slaughtered basically by the jihadists. So he had to flee with his elderly parents from that village, by the brinks of death. Basically, they were being shot up by tanks and artillery and drones as they were driving, trying to get away from there. And I lost contact with him for 3-4 days, I think, and I wasn't hearing anything. Not even the V mark on because the last message he sent me is that the jihadists are literally in his neighborhood, rounding up people in the streets and killing them. And then the Israeli fighter jets came and shot at these jihadists and create some kind of a confusion there. And he was one of the people that was about to be rounded to be killed. They were calling them all out, going searching their homes. They tried to basically get the weapons from you before they execute you.
Right.
And in that process, when they were all rounded up with the women and children, that's when one of the Israeli strikes landed there, and they got scattered, and some of the Druze men were able to push, and they fled. Haven't heard from him for 3-4 days, and only after that I heard that he survived. Several of my family members are elderly women, elderly at the age of between 50 to 70, and they're too old to leave their houses. It's not safe right now to walk, and the streets are being bombed. Drones are targeting civilians. So they're staying in, and they're just hearing, their neighbors just got slaughtered. They hear all the rejoicing when they do that, and they're throwing people from balconies. So they keep sending my mom messages of how terrified they are, and I listen to these audios messages to get a picture. So it's hard. It's really hard seeing an October 7 happening to the entire community, and the world is more obsessed with hiding the crimes, meanwhile running a PR stunt for an ISIS terrorist named, Al-Jawlani. And just so their PR stunt doesn't, get hurt by the blood of the innocent that are literally flowing in the streets of Syria, they will hush it down so they can keep going with the campaign that they gave him, because they gave him a jacket and they told him to trim his beard. That's what's happening. That's literally what's happening. It's a crazy world, man.
I'm just sitting here and I'm getting a little frustrated by exactly what you were describing, which is that the whole situation is basically being ignored by the media because it doesn't fit in with the narrative that they've constructed for themselves, which sort of pits, Israel against the rest of the world. And most people, haven't even heard of Druze. Or they think they're Muslims or something, So And never mind Yazidi, and they don't understand what the Kurds, the Kurdish situation is. So I just think it's really important that, particularly first-hand accounts that you and your Druze brothers and sisters get from people there somehow get heard, because there's no Druze organization that's doing propaganda. You're all it seems to me that it's a network of people who have a shared ethnic and religious background, but are of different nationalities otherwise. So to me, these accounts seem very credible. Also, when we know when these Salafi extremist organizations are capable of have done other places, I think it needs to be taken a lot more seriously. But in order for that to happen, much more needs to get known. So I'm hoping we can contribute to that by sharing links and having this podcast and whatever, so we can get more interest from it, from Norway, which is a tiny country, but we are a country where things like this, where we are small voices, but we can influence our government a little bit more than, for example, in Germany, which is a much larger country.
I have many friends in Norway. I used to work on the cruise line industry as a head of security, and most of my captains were Norwegians. Most of the bridge officers I met, many of them were Norwegians. Very strong, independent, people. Very proud people also of their culture and the way of life. And I just wonder sometimes, are they seeing what the rest of the world is seeing, that they might lose their way of life if they don't wake up? Or is that something that is still kind of going over their head?
I think it's still going over most people's head. A lot of it because of the mainstream media, as we were discussing here, both internationally and also here in Norway. It seems like they've just decided on a narrative. And most people, if you don't do the digging yourself, if you just read the headlines from the ordinary mainstream media, you just get the narrative that they serve you. So I think it's a moral obligation that people now start searching for more information, which you can find so readily. And that is a blessing right now in the time and age that we live in, that we actually have X. We have these different social media that actually gets the truth out if you search for it. But I wanted to ask you, because we've seen pictures and videos in the media about them shaving the mustache of the Druze people. How much does a mustache mean to a Druze man, and why are they doing this?
So their aim is to eradicate and humiliate other religions. And the Druze, the mustache doesn't have a religious reason. It's more of a traditional reason. And many Druze sheikhs or farmers that take pride and they grow a long mustache, a little bit like monks. Sometimes it goes down. But also in some ways, there is rumors that it was done because the Druze had to live in secret and hide their identity under many Muslim countries for hundreds of years, because if they know they're Druze, they'll kill them. So they said one of the ways for them to distinguish a little bit, because you see the Muslims usually have the big beard, but nothing here. They keep this open. So the Druze grew up that just a little bit to be spotted, but that's just a theory. But in general, it just became a symbol of the Druze. The mustache and the sharwal, these pants. You see a lot of people that go to India to all these nature parties. They come back with these pants. But I always kind of giggle because this looks like religious Druze pants. These pants that have this like big baggy thing kind of between the legs. So now the Syria and also in Europe, they're singing all the time. ما ظل شرب ولا شروال في سوريا شوارب ولا شروال. They're saying there's no mustaches and sharwals left in Sweida or in Syria, because that's the symbol of how they humiliated that religion. So just like we've seen in the Holocaust, they grabbed what was identifying the Jews in many ways.
Right.
And they went and started shaving it, cutting it, and humiliating them before they shoot them in the back of the head and throw them in a ditch. Nazis did that in a way to humiliate that race, basically, as they saw it, that inferior race. So they're in Syria, they're doing it because of a religious reason. It's to humiliate that religion. They do that to the Christians. They go and they burn their churches and they crucify some people, because you believe in Jesus, let us crucify you just like Jesus and stuff like that. They try to do that in Sweden, the Christians who are in that Druze community there. And some of them, they got, they murdered entire Christian families. So the mustache is just a very, very strong symbol of the Druze, and it's a very easy way for them to mock and kill them, and show how they do that.
I know we're a little bit pressed in time. You just have to let us know when you have to run, Mansur, and we're so appreciative of your time. We have a viewer question here from Embla who asks, would it be better for the Druze people to live in Golan under protection from Israel, or that Israel annexes southern Syria?
Undoubtedly, the Druze are even calling for Israel, come and annex us, takes us under you. You need to understand, in Muslim countries, the level of oppression is something that you don't know in Europe. So just the fact that we're seeing right now people in Syria waving an Israeli flag, that is a death sentence for you and your entire family. We're seeing them coming and calling publicly, Israel come and takes us. We have Arab villages in Israel, with Israeli citizens that don't wave Israeli flags in them. So you're having right now, seeing that in Syria, that's how historic it is. So they're crying for Israel, come and take us. I can tell you this, the best life that Arabs have in the Middle East is in Israel. I'm speaking as for me and my house.
Yeah.
My family is a witness. A very good, sharp example for that is a few months ago, there were Druze girls, teenage girls from the village of Yarka, who sent a satellite to space with the help of SpaceX and the US and Israel space program. So Druze teenage girls from the ages of 13 to 16 were empowered by the state of Israel to reach a level that they were able to send a satellite to space. Meanwhile, Druze girls in these ages in Syria are being kidnapped by jihadists after they murdered and raped their family in front of their eyes and sold to sex slavery and becoming sex slaves. So that just shows you how dire the situation. So if you ask that question, where is it better for them? Undoubtedly in Israel. They'll get freedom of religion. They'll get freedom, to live. They'll get empowered as women, as men, secular, as religious people. Doesn't matter what. So yes, I really hope that Israel or the West can help either annex them or give them some kind of a safety and independence.
Right. I just want to encourage our Norwegian audience here to write to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the political leaders and ask them, if nothing else, to pay attention to what's going on and put pressure on the Syrian government, but also their other governments, to look more closely into this and take this seriously. They don't have to agree with Israel. They can have different positions on other things, but it's important under any circumstances to prevent, a humanitarian disaster, which I agree with you has all the hallmarks of genocide, in the sense that the intention is clearly to eradicate the peoplehood of the Druze people in southern Syria. There is no question what the intention is, and you just gave a whole bunch of examples about that. So I hope people who are listening to this, write to people who have some influence, because here, Norway, the Norwegian government actually can make a difference.
Yeah, big time.
I also wanted to ask a question, because a lot of people aren't familiar with the Druze people. Could you just share a little bit about what is important to the Druze people, and what are your main values and way of life, and just a little bit of description about what the Druze people is?
Mm-hmm. Thanks for asking. Like I said, we're a very small, peaceful minority that is kept to herself. 1 million of us all around the world. So most people would never hear about the Druze unless they're being slaughtered. And even then, mainstream media is trying to hide it. So any chance that I have to come and explain about my people, I'm very happy. It's a religion that sees itself as descended from Jethro, from the Bible, the father-in-law of Moses, the father of Zipporah. They believe it's a 1,000 years old New Age religion, I call it. They believe that God gave prophets and, epiphany to different people around the world. And he gave the Jews Moses, the Christians Jesus, the Muslims Muhammad. He gave the Hindus and the Buddhists, understanding of, what it means to go. And they're all going to the same direction, which is God. They call themselves al-Muwahhidun. That's one of their names, meaning the ones who believe in one God. And they're very accepting to everyone. So if you come as a Christian or as a Muslim or as a Hindu or as an atheist or agnostic, it doesn't matter to your village, they will accept you because they think that you have a lot of wisdom to share in this whole puzzle called humanity that is together showing the picture of God who's out there. You can call it many names. The creator of the universe. So for that reason, they were slaughtered by Islam, because Islam comes and says, no, Islam is the only way. You can't have other ways. And Muhammad is the last prophet. So the Druze, 1,000 years ago, started that religion. Then they got persecuted. Then they became secret to hide themselves. They are very loyal to the land that they're living in. They try to stay away from politics. And therefore, they say, if the government is fair to us, we will serve them. We will pay the taxes if they need it. Let them play, country games, politic games. We just want to live here and have our own faith. You can't convert anyone to Druze. You can only be born Druze. So they're not trying to convert anyone or to change anyone's beliefs. They're very acceptable to people. They just ask you to be acceptable to them. And that's why the Druze and the Jews get along very well, because they have no intention of converting one another. They're just saying, I respect you, respect me, let's be friends. So that's in a nutshell, the Druze. They're not very religious. There is the religious people who are religious, but most of Druze are secular. And there's no problem in the religion for that. They're accepted for that. It's a secret religion, so only the religious people will start getting, known about it. But the most of them would literally live, on the foundation of human decency and, kind of general world rules of, be kind to others and help. They're very hospitable. And they have their flag, which compile of the colors, and people have been seeing these colors. It looks a little bit like the gay flag, but it's not. Some people confuse it sometimes. And every color represents a prophet, but also values of life, earth, harvest, philosophy, life, kindness, kind of that. So they took basically what they liked from every religion in the world, and they mushed it together to make it some kind of a compiled kind of religion that accepts all. And that's their only sin, that they tried to change Islam about 1,000 years ago and to convince them to accept other religions. They went down and they said, they offered that to the Caliph. And when the Islam heard that, in the beginning they were interested in Egypt, but then they decided, no, these are kuffars, we need to kill them. And since then, they're being killed for being Druze.
Just you made a point earlier, which I thought is interesting, which is the Druze have traditionally been very loyal to the country in which they live, right? So Syrian Druze were loyal to the Syrian country, and Israeli Druze and Lebanese Druze. And it seems to me that it's kind of extraordinary now that the Syrian Druze are saying, hey, we're being betrayed by our own government and we need help from outside. That it actually takes a lot for the Druze community to be openly critical of the government in which they're, at least in a country like Syria. I know that there's a huge span of political opinions among Israeli Druze or Druze Israelis, but within Syria, for them to actually be openly in opposition to the government is kind of unusual, isn't it?
It's very, very unusual. And I think also there's a lot of Muslims in Syria that even rallied behind the Druze cause, behind the Druze Sheikh al-Hijri, because they helped take down the Assad regime.
Right.
And they helped, free Syria. And then when that happened, they basically came, when Jolani took power by force, they came and said, listen, we have a chance here to create a great Syria. Let's do proper democracy and have representatives from every religion, from the Christians, from the Alawites, from the Yazidis, the Kurds, the Druze, the Muslims, the Sunnah, in the government, so we can create a good government for everyone. And that's when that government said, no, we're going to do it our way, which is extreme Salafi Sunnah. So they demanded the Druze to surrender and to succumb to that extreme government. Druze said no. So people in Syria until today are actually seeing that the Druze are the ones fighting for the real Syria. Right. But they saw that the real Syria doesn't exist anymore. The real Syria is a dream that was stolen by Assad and now is stolen by al-Jawlani, and it keeps being stolen by radical jihadists. And the government here just want to kill them and exterminate them. So they got their back pushed to the wall and said, okay, there's no more, Syria for its people. And the only way for us to survive is, please, Israel, come and save us. Maybe in the future we can talk about it, but right now, come and save us before they literally come and exterminate us.
Yeah,
I was
I
so
hope this
lucky
gets a lot more
to.
attention.
Yeah, I was just in Israel in March, and I was so lucky to be able to go and visit the Druze village, and also greet your sheikh. I was it was such a great experience. I was so warmly welcomed there, and I remember the peaceful and calm nature, and I was so impressed with your peaceful demeanor of your people, and it was so beautiful to visit your village. It was in northern Israel. I can't remember the name of the town just now, but it was a beautiful town, and it was such a great meeting. And I think there should be a lot more information and a lot more portraits and reportage about the Druze people, so that people will know much more about your people in themselves.
I agree. I agree. And sadly, people get to hear about us only when we're being slaughtered, and only via independent podcasts like you guys. We're so lucky, just like you said, to have X and to have, the chance, for just two gentlemen like yourself who comes and take from the free time and put a headphone, put a mic, open a camera, expose yourself to the world live, and says, let us try to tell you what's happening. And I think that's why many people right now are realizing we can't trust the media anymore, the mainstream media. They need to really dig in and find trustworthy podcasts and news channels, independent ones, and start getting from them the information. And maybe that's how the world is changing today, to become that. Back in the days, you only were able to hear about another country if a reporter from your country sailed on a boat there, met some people, wrote some things, didn't forget something, came back, and you would hope that he got the real picture to give you. And then we got TV, and then we got radios and TV, and then we got internet. Now, in some ways, we the people can become reporters. You just need to learn to find who are the right people, and the only ones speaking and reporting about what's happening in Syria right now is channels like yourself, who's
And we have
inviting.
very little resources to do so. I mean, we depend on people like you to show up
Yeah,
and tell us your story, and more credibility is going to be gained the more information comes out, and the more triangulate, the more sources it is. And that's why I'm so grateful that you and your Druze brothers and sisters are actually keeping in touch with what's actually happening in Sweida and the other areas, and reporting back, because sooner or later, the world has to be held account, and particularly the media, the media that has the resources, they have to be held account for ignoring this.
yeah.
And the more information is documented, the better, and the more chances are that something is actually going to happen. I was very moved by the demonstration that I participated in on Sunday, and most of it was in Arabic, so I only understood fragments of words here and there. But the theme that kept coming up was not to be angry at Muslims or to be angry at other people, but it was specifically to call out the regime in Syria right now, like you said, Jolani and his people, and making them accountable for the things they're actually. It was very heartfelt. I was and people were totally nice to us, even though they didn't know who we were. So I hope.
Yeah.
So I hope that we can do a little bit to get attention, and I would encourage you guys to continue doing what you're doing. What's this
Just wanted
picture?
to,
Yeah, I just
Henrik?
wanted to share a picture from my trip when I was there in Israel in March. And this is from the Druze village that I visited. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit, Mansur, what we're seeing here.
So this is a very typical Druze room that many families will have. Depends how big the house. My grandfather have a very similar room to that one. As you can see on the walls there, you have pictures and images of the Druze going and shaking the hands of Yitzhak Rabin, of the King of Jordan, different sheikhs showing the history of the Druze from the foundation of the Israeli nation until today, around the world as well. Druze usually often will sit on sijadi and sharshaf, and mattresses on the floor, and they will drink tea. In Syria, they like drink mate. You're seeing here the picture of the Druze Sheikh, Tarif. He's the leadership of the Druze Sheikhs. That's the Sheikh is the word for the priests, call it that way, in Israel. And yeah, that's kind of a typical Druze hospitality. Well, they will welcome you to their house. They'll have people going around. Yep, that's the Druze sheikhs that go around and serve you tea and welcome you and give you food. And as you can see, they're all usually traditionally have these big beards, big white beards, and that's what the Muslims are trying to go right now. The radical ones are trying to go and shave and humiliate before they execute them. There is groups in the Middle East that see life as a very sacred thing, and that's mostly Jews, Christians, and Druze. And the loss of every human that we have hurts us a lot. Every woman that gets humiliated hurts us a lot. And these jihadists, they know that. They don't care about that. So they want to go and try to hurt us as much as they can by humiliating our daughters, our wives, our elders. But yeah, you can see the Druze flag and the Israeli flag. You'll find them all over every Druze village in Israel happening. As you can see, the Druze usually they stay away from worldly pleasures. I mean, the religious people. So they don't have any jewelry on them. They don't have rings or earrings. They usually shave their head as a sign that hairstyle is a distraction, and just being bold is easier. And a lot of their villages are in the mountains, just like you're showing here in the picture, because history speaks that they had to hide away from the Muslims who came to kill them, and it was very easy to hide in the mountains and to live there and protect yourself.
I remember drinking this wonderful tea that they offer to visitors with is it with the chamomile or cinnamon
Nana,
or chamomile?
nana, with
Yeah,
mint.
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 Yeah, it
They
was
grow in their
wonderful.
garden. Yeah, mint or Louisa. Yeah, they live very healthy. Also in Israel, the Druze have very high lifespan. They live, my great grandmother lived until 109, I think. Her husband 103. She
Wow.
was still showering, doing everything by herself until like 107. So they eat very healthy. They live very healthy. They religious people. They don't drink. They don't smoke. I mean, drink alcohol. They don't do drugs. They eat from the ground, very organic kind of farming style, and they're very. They work a lot. They're like they go to the katif, that are olive trees and the farms, and they come home. But in Israel also they work in every field. Like they go to the politics. They go to the we have judges, we have officers in the army, pilots, we have doctors, teachers. So they're part of the society completely.
And this
Yeah.
wonderful coffee also that they serve. Do you remember what it is in that one? Is it cinnamon or what do you have in that?
We have hell in it. It sounds like hell. Cardigan, cardigan. I don't know the name exactly, but it's something that
Uh-huh.
gives a little bit of flavor.
Cardamom, cardamom.
Cardamom. Yes, not
Yeah, yeah,
cardamom.
yeah.
And
Yeah, it was wonderful.
yeah, we
I
put
think.
cardamom in it. It's really good. It's really good. And you have sometimes different coffees that they make for different events, for funeral, for weddings. Sometimes they have coffees that can prepare for like 3 days.
Oh
You have
wow.
someone will come and slowly stir like a whole pot of coffee just so they can have enough for the entire neighborhood, whoever comes to their house. It's always going to be warm, sitting on a plate. You come in, they'll give you the coffee. Very hospitable. The whole culture is built around hospitality in some ways.
Right.
I think that everybody who's listening to this and people in Norway now should put some cardamom in their coffee today and in the name of the Druze and remember the Druze people. And we're
Yeah.
going towards the end of the episode right now. But if there's one thing that, or several things that you wish that people listening now could do for the Druze people, what would it be that we can do for your people?
The best thing you can do if you're living far away is be a voice for the voiceless. That's something
Mhm.
that every person today that have a smartphone in his hand can just go and quickly do that. We have the power to amplify right causes and to also push against the ones who are trying to do that, because the other side is doing that all the time. So share, you know, the cry of the Druze, share the pledge for the Druze to come and be saved, share what's happening to them. Some of you might not want to go and share and see all these horrific images, and I completely understand. I wish I didn't have to see it, but it's happening to my people and I need to share it, but it's horrific stuff. So I'm not asking you to start sharing all the gory, October 7th style videos that are happening, but at least pressure your government. If you hear a demonstration happening in your town, I know it might be inconvenient for many people to get out of their house. I live in Europe. I live in Germany. I see how much they love their comfort. They love their home. And it's sometimes very hard to get people to get out of that bubble. But it's important. Go to these demonstrations. If you have a Druze friend, send them a message. Doesn't have to be political even. Just, we're sorry for what's happening for your people, and show some care, because just like the Jews felt alone when October 7 happened and they had rare friends from around the world that cared and many just ignored or hated them, the Druze are feeling even more lonely because there's only 1 million of us. 1 million of us all around the world, and they're trying to annihilate us. So I think it's a very good, worthy cause, and that will definitely help. People can easily do that from their homes. Watch content that is made by Druze content creators. Watch podcasts like this. It might sound like cheap because I haven't done YouTube most of my life. I just started doing it, kind of recently. But like these videos, comment, watch them, share them, helps bring exposure. Find podcasts that you appreciate of Druze people or people in your country, Norwegian, Dutch, doesn't matter, British, that you feel that they have a voice. Try to amplify. We need to start pushing out on the social media platform. That's something that everybody can do. I mean, there's a lot of things that people can do, but most people are not going to travel to the Middle East now and try to work and solve the conflict. But from your home, definitely.
Yes. We thank you so much, Mansur, and I hope that your family will be well and survive this. And I wish the best for the Druze people. And I hope that the situation will resolve and that people will survive this. And I hope that Israel can do what they can and that they continue to push on with both military and political power to do this. And I wish you all the best. And thank you so much for your time and coming here to speak with us today.
Thanks for having me, both of you. I really appreciate that.
Not at all.
Thank
It's
you.
the least we could do.
Thank you. And to our listeners and everybody that's been watching this, we wish you a good weekend and Shabbat Shalom. And do you have a special saying that you say in the Druze community when it's Friday and when it's weekend? Do you have a happy weekend kind of saying?
In Israel, we just say Shabbat Shalom. Even
Yeah,
the Druze.
exactly. Yes, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you
Shabbat
so
shalom.
much.
All the best.
Bye bye.
Bye.